Well, hello there. So today's the day. Today sees Bryan Kohberger in court. Now, I have a feeling that this could be a long, drawn-out process. And later in this video, we're going to have a little bit of a chat as to why. Law enforcement seem to think the opposite. They seem to think this has been handed to them with a little bow and it's going to be over within a couple of months. Who knows? They obviously know a lot more than what we do. But there's just something that has always bothered me about this case. And we're going to have a look in a second at the actual timeline of the attack itself. Because it's this timeline that I struggle with. Now, we know, and law enforcement have also said, professionals, ex-law enforcement, people who specialise in crime and criminology, and they've said that this guy made every single mistake conceivable. It's not just he made one mistake, but he made every mistake. Absolutely every single mistake there was to make, he made it. And I do struggle with that. I struggle to think that if this was someone who had planned this, he had taken 12 trips to this area, he had found out about the home, he had found out about the unlocked doors, the fact that he could get in and get out. He wore black clothing, apparently, if it's him. Remember, if it's him, he's still innocent until proven guilty, but, we're led to believe it's him. He was clad in black, so he'd got the clothing, black clothing, to hide him from the light and stuff like that. And again, he'd apparently stalked this out, and no one knew. Apparently, no one knew that he was stalking. He was hiding in plain sight. He'd done all of that, the meticulous planning, even to the point where he knows when to leave Pullman to get to Moscow. We'll come back to that as well. But then when the attack took place itself, he made every single conceivable error there was to make. Was it that the plan just simply didn't go to plan? Or is it that this was not as planned as what people think? Was there something else going on that night? Did someone perhaps tip Bryan off? Was there an issue? Was there a problem? Before we have a look at the timeline, I'm going to read something. This is a post. I'm going to put it on screen so you can see it as well, but I don't know how big the text is. But this was a post that was posted on the University of Idaho page on Facebook back on November 23rd. And it says, I just found my remote photography group has video from a tripod that was stationed behind the house. It recorded from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. and shows a woman running from the side of the house as a truck entered the driveway. She ran away from the house and ran right by our tripod at approximately 2 a.m. A group member has removed the tripod, and I don't know who has the video. It is the group's right to not disclose why we record, but we would send in recordings in special circumstances. So we heard about, was it Inan Harsh? And I know he's not the most credible person in the world, but he spoke of an SUV entering the car park. We've got this camera, but remember, this is when before any of this come out, so we didn't even know so much about the timings and, how that would then tie into Bryan's movements. And that being said, let's have a look at Bryan's movements. But why would there be a female running away from this property and the importance of that specific time? Let's go on to this, shall we? Let's go on to this, he says. So look. So is at the top. Look. So Sunday November 13th, by 1 a.m, police believe the two surviving roommates were also out separately on November 12th in Moscow. They returned home but did not wake up until later in the morning. That's what they think at that time. At about 1:40 a.m., Gonsalves and Mogan were seen on surveillance video at the grub truck at 318 South Main Street and used a private party for a ride home. At about 1:45 a.m., Chapin and Knodel returned to the 1122 King Road home after they were last seen at the Sigma Chi house on the University of Idaho campus at 735 Nez Perce Drive. If I haven't said that right, tough. At 1:56 a.m., Gonsalves and Mogan arrived home. So around 2 a.m., Gonsalves and Mogan arrive home. So we then hear that this camera, if this camera exists, which I'm guessing it does, sees a female running away from the property. Not long after, it would appear that people start to get home. So had somebody else been in the property, around the property? Had they been checking to see whether doors were unlocked? Again, speculation, but it just seems that it's a bit odd. So then, at 2:44 a.m., investigators were given access to video footage from WSU's campus in Pullman, and it showed a white sedan was seen travelling north on Nevada Street at Northeast Stadium Way. So within 45 minutes, approximately, of these getting home, he's on the move. How does he know that? How is it that within 45 minutes, because I think to myself, right, so you are planning this, would you not be in the area already? Keep an eye on what is going on, who is going to the property, who's not going to the property. If you are planning this, surely you would have eyes on this place much earlier. But how is it that he is in Pullman basically 45 minutes this time? At 2:45 a.m. is when he leaves. It's almost as if someone has tipped him off that they have got home. He gets himself ready, gets himself sorted, does what he needs to on his phone, shuts his phone off, and then heads over there. 2:47 a.m. records showed that Kohberger's phone left his Pullman home and stopped reporting to the network. Between 2:47 and 4:48, according to court documents, the route of travel, Kohberger's phone, and the lack of reporting is consistent with his attempt to conceal his location during the time of the murders. Which, yes, you could say, look, again, it's circumstantial, I suppose, but at the end of the day, the phone seems to have been shut off and he would have to explain that. 2:53 a.m., the sedan was seen leaving Pullman and travelling towards State Route 270, which connects Pullman to Moscow. The surviving roommates told police their roommates and Chapin were home by 2 a.m. and were asleep, or at least in their rooms, by 4 a.m. Again, we've heard a lot more information since then, but, home by 2 and in their rooms by 4 a.m. At about 3:30 a.m., surveillance video showed sightings of the suspect vehicle in the King Road neighborhood. 4 a.m., Knodel received a food delivery order, and investigators said the delivery driver reported the information. At about 4 a.m., the surviving roommate told investigators she woke up to hearing what sounded like Gonsalves playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, according to court docs. She heard who she thought was Gonsalves saying, "There's someone here." She then opened her door and saw a man about 5'10" wearing black clothing and a mask. She told police that he walked right past her, left the house as she stood in frozen shock phase, and locked her room after seeing the man. 4:04 a.m., the suspect vehicle was seen entering the neighborhood a fourth time. Between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m., investigators believe the homicides occurred. 4:20 a.m., the suspect vehicle was seen leaving the King Road home at a high rate of speed. Between 4:50 a.m. and 5:26 a.m., Kohberger's phone was traveling south to Genesee, Idaho, then back to Pullman. At about 5:25 a.m., a white sedan matching the description of the suspect vehicle was seen on 5 cameras in Pullman and WSU's campus. So at 5:30, records showed Kohberger's phone was back in Pullman. But then hold on, he then goes back there. Between 9 a.m. and 9:32 a.m., Kohberger's phone utilised cellular resources that are consistent with his phone leaving his apartment and travelling to Moscow and back. But then he doesn't shut his phone down that time. So he keeps his phone on then. At 11:58 a.m. is when the 911 call happened. Now, this raises several questions to me. Now, first of all, I think to myself, let's get me back. First of all, I think to myself, look, this to me seems like someone tipped him off, like I said earlier. I find it very, very suspicious that this guy's in Pullman. These guys get home, and then within 45 minutes of them getting home, he is on the move. He takes his phone with him, and then he gets this property. There is then a food delivery of some description. Now, I have to wonder whether he made the phone, the pizza, whatever food delivery it was. Did he order it to it? I don't know. Because again, and I've mentioned this before, I struggle to understand how he decided to enter the property if he is watching that property and sees that there is a delivery driver delivering food. Because that to me would say, right, there's people in that house and they're ordered food. Ordered food. He wasn't there himself, so how did he know how many people were even in that house? The house was known as a party house. You've watched it take a food delivery, but you still feel safe enough to walk in that house. He could have walked in that house and there could have been 30 people in there. Something doesn't sit right here. And lo and behold, he then goes into the house and does this within minutes. Within minutes. And let's not go into the intricacies of how physical that would have been. And he just doesn't sit right. Something just doesn't sit right with this. Now, is there going to be more crop up? He's in court today. And, you know, all we can do is speculate at the end of the time, end of the day. That's all we can do, speculate. But the more I read this and more I read into the actual night itself and hear little things like this camera being set up and catching a female running away from the property at around 2 a.m., which kind of ties in with when people are coming home. And then you've got this guy who is nowhere near the place, but seems to all of a sudden get on the move when they're all home. And then he enters the property when it's seemingly given information that would lead you to believe that the house could be full of people. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you later after the court hearing. Peace.